Tangerine, you are now tuned in with Balcony Talk, the 316 Project. Shake it up a little bit. It's popcorn with some butter on it. All right. Okay, here we go. It says, how has having roots in Wichita and Chicago influenced your production style? And that's interesting because I feel like from a production standpoint, Chicago is like a melting pot of different influences. And then Wichita is kind of the same thing, but on a smaller scale. I think Chicago, in a lot of ways, has a well-defined sound, or what you would expect. Like they've done some, with house and drill and the, juke culture and stuff in Chicago. And then so Wichita is kind of looking for more a voice, a sound, a rhythm. But we're influenced by a lot of different things. So I think Chicago has helped me understand my roots, and Wichita has kept me open to exploring what that looks like for me. See what else we got, give it a shake. These are some good questions so far. I only seen 2 of them. Okay. What has music production taught you about yourself? Damn, there's like a rhythm, a cadence to every aspect of my life, and I just gotta listen for it. I feel like that's what it's taught me. How do you feel about your current music scene here in Wichita? Where do you see the opportunities for growth? Love this question. I think the scene right now is thriving in the sense of, we're all finding connection in one another, and that's great. I think the opportunities is to find a rhythm for Wichita that feels authentic, and something that we collectively kind of either curate, collaborate, or decide what that is or what that looks like. I want to see a collective spirit to the way we find our voice, I guess.
Why do you think you might be struggling in that area right now?
I think for a large part of it is like the connection piece was missing for a long time. I think people were being creative and they were using their instincts based off influences that wasn't necessarily derived from Wichita. And I think with all of that is fine, right? But I think we have something to add. And so I think through connection, we'll get there together, but it has to be authentic.
But you think we're on the track, like on the right track for that right now, based on what you're saying?
I think we are. I think there's some things that could be done. I want to help influence that if I can. So I think we're headed there. Great questions, by the way. Oh my God. Okay. What's your favorite piece of gear or plugin you feel like you can't live without right now? Why would you ask me this? I'm such a nerd. So for me, my whole thing, I love machine. I love the workflow. I love how you can get from an idea, you can get your idea on the canvas, if you will, very quickly. So I would say machine is a sleeper in terms of production. I love it a lot. What other gear that I love? I mean, I got so much gear that I love, but plug-in, let me think of a plug-in. Man, I can name so many, but I'll say this. There's a plug-in called Dirt by Native Instruments, Dirt. And what it does is it adds distortion to a sound, and it allows you to control that distortion with parameters that give you, really cool results. What's your creative process like when you're starting a new beat? What elements do you find yourself find yourself starting with most. Okay. A feeling. I would say a feeling is the best way to start a beat. And then the elements from there are basically, moving people to that feeling, I guess. It could be a chord progression, it could be a bass line, it could be having the right amount of space in a beat that creates that. So, yeah.
Do you kind of meditate on that feeling, or do you feel like it's kind of like almost an immediate like instinct? You're gravitating to certain, drums or whatever elements you're wanting to start with. Like, does it come immediately, or do you feel like you have to kind of like sit and let things play out in your mind before you can, I guess, start to bring it alive?
Yeah, I think it depends on how you feeling, what you got going on that day. I think if the feeling is there, you'll know immediately what sounds right. What sounds right. I think if you're having a hard time figuring out what sounds right, you probably need to get up and go do something else for a while. Come back to it. Because you'll know that I gotta express how I'm feeling right now. No, that ain't it. No, this is it. Like, oh, just sit with it for a second. Yeah, that's it. That type of thing. So that's what I would say. How would you describe your sound to viewers that aren't familiar with your work yet? I would say it's a lot of different things. It can be spacey, it can be vibey, it can be vibrant, and that allows it to kind of fall in different genres, different pockets. It depends on how I'm feeling. I really have a hard time defining my sound, because when I feel like I need a little attitude, I'll make something that's kind of trap influence. And it might just be an element, might just be the drum section that's trap, but this kind of dreamy chord progression over top, it creates the edge is there, but it also kind of creates a place where you can kind of still drift and take it into, interpret it how you want, or just listen to it how you want. So I would say my sound comprised of a lot of different elements, but I like to focus on the groove, the feeling, and the vibe. That's what I would say. Who are some artists or producers, local, mainstream, that have heavily inspired your approach to production? There's quite a few, I would say.
A couple mainstream, and then there's anybody local that inspired you.
Okay, so mainstream, I'm gonna start with one of my personal goats would be Quincy Jones. And it's his legacy through music and the evolution of him as a musician that I really admire a lot. Like he started his musical career in the 1930s, and he just passed away this past year, rest in peace. But he's expanded from everything. Like he was one of the true pioneers of jazz and other things that kind of brought things to the mainstream. He worked with Michael Jackson, and he just worked in so many vastly different spaces and with different artists. I've always admired that. Another person I would say is a producer called Ill Mind. He's an older producer. I want to say he's a Filipino American from New York, if I'm not mistaken. He started making beats maybe 30, if not 40 years ago. But he changed the game in the sense of he was one of the first bedroom producers to basically be called up on a mainstream record without a label being involved. And so, yeah, do some research on Ill Mind. I'm very inspired by his approach because he's so diverse in his sound that it gives him opportunity to work with a lot of different people. But he's so commercially successful as well because he has a hit factor element about, I don't know, his production is just, I don't want to say for everybody, but it just resonates with, I guess, the time, if you will. So, you know. Yeah. Anyways.
Yeah, local with that.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
Very, inspired.
Yeah, so I'm really inspired by Logan.jpg. He's one of my favorite producers. I would say Goose is very inspiring as well. He never shies away from being himself on a track. My boy Finn is a nerd, and you know, he's a crate digger. He's a true hip hop enthusiast, I would say. And then Cozart. I think Cozart's one of the grooviest, dopest producers, artists in the city. And so them 4 people right there are probably my favorite on the production side. Yeah, that's what I would say. So cool. But I would, to add a few artists that are very inspiring too. J37, that's my dog. The day I seen him perform, I knew I had to lock in with him. So I love the way he just, you know, he's a very great artist, performer, visionary, innovator. Lalo, I love his approach to music. I love how he's innovating. I love how he has a youthful spirit about him. And so those are people that inspire me as well as artists on the artist side. What do you look for in an artist to determine if you want to collaborate? I look for a spirit, right? A spirit, and it's in you, not on you. So there's a lot of times, I'm not looking to work with the coolest people. I'm looking to work with the most passionate people, the most entrepreneurial driven, you know, people that their values kind of guide them, you know, in this world. Kind of down to earth people with a lot of passion is how I would kind of simplify that answer. So yeah. What else we got? What's a core memory that drove you into the field of music production? Oh, that's a good question. Man, I want to say it was a lot of them, but I remember particularly being a kid and admiring like Michael Jackson. I just wanted to know everything about him. It was something about his music that blended this grooviness, this edginess, and this kind of smoothness to it, all in a way that kind of kept you fascinated. And so like listening to some of like his early music and how it evolved into like Thriller and Invincible and Bad and just all those albums, I would say being a kid and just being truly, deeply, authentically inspired by the music. And so then you do your research and you realize there was a lot more people behind the music than Michael Jackson, right? So then that kind of really gets you on the production side. But yeah, I would just say being a kid, watching Michael Jackson was one of the greatest performers to ever do it. And yeah. And then I would say like my first favorite rapper was 50 Cent. And I'll tell you why, because I remember being a kid and it was an edginess, it was a spookiness about listening to some of the albums, you know, Get Rich or Die Trying, like the stakes are high, you know, the man shot 9 times, he was a great storyteller. And so with that being said, you kind of like, you see that story in the lens of like, you know, and through the lens of 50 Cent. So like that was one of the first artists that I really felt. And then, you know, he had a G-Unit clothing, it was very influential. One of the first artists I feel like really kind of, for me, in my generation at that time, kind of really culturally, you know, had everything going for him. You know, I think the record label, the clothing brand, You know, the music always being number one and being hot, but still being authentically street, if you will, but having an authentic story, of course. That's part of it. I think that was all kind of like, really kind of like, you know, I don't know, man. That was just, music has always been everywhere for me. So, you know. I kind of want to add to that question, actually. So, I do want to say this, like, I feel like, I guess what kind of challenged me to answer this question is the fact that I feel like no one ever had to introduce hip hop to me. Like, it was just always there. Like, I came out the womb and it hugged me. You know what I mean? Because of just like growing up in Chicago, having a story of many people who grew up there, you know, motherless, fatherless, drugs, murder, that type of thing. So like, I remember, you know, beatboxing and hitting the table with a pen in my fist making beats. I remember standing around freestyling with my older brothers. It was just part of life. And so I think music was always an escape for us as kids. You know what I mean? Music, sports, and things like that growing up in Chicago, so, yep. Uh-oh, we getting pretty thin. Let's see what we got. Who is in rotation for you right now? The Clips? Tyler, the Creator? I think it's a great month. It's been a good month or two for music, for me anyways. I've been heavily inspired by the Clips album.
Coming like that.
Yeah, well, I have been hearing about it, and because they did do a good job promoting it, but they took a 16-year hiatus, so you were just like, oh, okay. It's just like, you know, a lot of people take a break and come back 20 years, and it's like, okay, yeah, they did an album, or, you know, whatever. I mean, you can make the case. Some people say that the Carter 6 wasn't great. Obviously, Lil Wayne's legacy is what it is, so sometimes you just don't know what to expect. But given the craftsmanship of Pusha T, I mean, it often delivers because I think the care and attention is always there. The care and attention. So yeah, I would say the Clips, the Let God Sort 'Em Out. That album for me is in rotation for sure. I briefly got some listens to. I love it because his idea of it was to get people to move, and that's something that people are too cool to do these days.
There's a lot of fear. A little clip that he put out, you know, like basically like there's no phones allowed, and there was less pressure to, I guess, look a certain way. Like dancing is a form of expression, but we're at a point where like if you're not automatically good at something, then you just shouldn't, and it takes a lot of joy out of life when you think about it that way.
Right.
So I've definitely always been envious, you know, not envious, but I guess like just proud, and you know, maybe I need to be more like that, you know, or people just they don't let judgment stop them from being able to just be themselves and do what their body wants to do to be able to like transmute this energy that's, you know, flowing through them. So that's what I appreciated as well, you know, because Chromacopia was a very, very personal album for him. And he's like, I'm probably not going to do another personal album ever or for a while. So I just want people to like dance and have fun. So I appreciate that and that perspective from him a lot. But I also enjoyed that album.
Yeah, I'm not done listening to it, I'll be honest, but from what I've heard, I really enjoy. One thing I'll say about that is sometimes I feel like, especially in culture and society right now, we'll do things to look a certain way, right? But then we'll forget what we're actually promoting. And so influence is very interesting, and hip hop has always had a lot of it. And so the carelessness with like, oh, I'm just gonna blindly will this influence and not think about the repercussions or the, you know, is interesting. So for me, it's like I kind of always wanted to make a dance album because I wanted to promote a certain level of joy from listening to music. And I think we should be conscious of what we're actually promoting. I think Tyler did a good job to say, I want to get people to move, so I want to promote, dance to your music or whatever. I thought it was interesting. It's innovative. How do you navigate creative blocks as a producer? How do you pour back into yourself when your well feels dry? Okay, interesting. I don't know. No, I'm just kidding. I really don't know sometimes, I'm gonna be honest. But what I will say is I've always been able to sort of pick it back up through doing the things that I enjoy. And so when my well feels dry, oftentimes I need rest. When I feel uninspired, oftentimes I need to go live. When I feel overwhelmed, I probably just need to take a break. And so I think sometimes it can be simple. As long as you're doing what you love, you need to understand that loving yourself is also taking a break, going on a walk, deciding that today is a rest day, or, hanging out with friends and family is important too. So I would say just a healthy lifestyle, just bringing balance to it. I don't think you should overstrain yourself, overstretch yourself to accomplish anything. It should be about just the nature of doing what you love. So yeah.
It's a good feeling for people to get caught up in the pressure of producing something great and to go viral and capture some ears and eyes. I feel like
Absolutely.
Pressure.
Yeah. I think it's 100% unnecessary. I think that becomes more of a popularity contest than, authenticity in the way you create. So, right. And I think we all gotta think about what our priorities is and what our dreams actually are. I wake up every day and feel like to some capacity I'm living a dream of mine because I have the opportunity to create something. I have freedom to create. I'm doing well enough where this can be prioritized today. You know what I mean? I don't even want to take that for granted because I know people working 2-3 jobs and they're just caught up in that. I know. So I think for me, at a baseline level, this is a dream come true. But for other people, it may be the attention that comes with being successful. And
outside validation.
Yeah. So
there's confirmation that it's free.
Yeah, exactly. And so it's so it's kind of where we're at with that. What do you want people to feel when they listen to your music? Emotions. I definitely don't want you to be indifferent. So that's what I want you to feel emotion. I want you to be inspired to dance. I want you to be inspired to cry. I want you to be moved the way maybe I intentionally made it. So that's what I would say. Shake it up real good, see what we get. I don't know, right? See. What does the next chapter look like for Tangerine? It's a great question. I think for me, I want to find more connection and help foster more connection within the city and within the people around me. So I guess I would say I think I'm already doing that. Deciding the right, who's the right fit to be in my crew. But I don't mean that in a divisive way, but I mean that in a constructive way, because I want to help build bridges, and I want to help bring a different sense of authenticity to the space of, you know, just mindless media and chaos. So that's what I would say. But and through doing that, I hope to like find, you know, authentic connections, or to create authentic connections. It's Tangerine. You are now tapped in with Balcony Talks with the 316 Project. Thank you for watching this episode. It has been a pleasure to answer such wonderful questions. You can find me at Tangerine Poppy _ on Instagram. That's my personal page, nothing major. And then we have the REELWAV page, Instagram. You can find us on Twitch and YouTube. And we are kind of doing some content creating with vlogs, podcasts, live streams, that sort of thing. And yeah, I'll probably post music there too.